specialist Steven Nedorosik. I did watch that live, the men's gymnastics team final. This dude just came out and that was his only event, was the pommel horse. He was the closer essentially because that was their last uh, event in the team competition, and he came out there and dominated, and they won a bronze. So, yeah, if you're not watching some Olympics, it's a good time. You know, there's a lot of different sports. Watched badminton when it first started up. So, Lauren and I watched equestrian. I'm not a huge dressage person, but she likes it. So,
Not my
yeah.
jam. Did you see the Edwards talking? The ping pong players talked trash to him, and they said they 21-0 him, and he wasn't so sure. And now he's going to all the ping pong games, and he's
Yeah.
really hyped about it. So that's pretty cool.
By the way, Anthony, they would totally 21 nothing you.
Oh
Definitely,
yeah,
without a
like,
doubt.
I think
Yeah.
he realized going to the game it would be that. I mean, unless the only way to get a point is if like they hit into a net, like they hit the net on those serve back. Like that's the only way. Like it's their mistake, not anything he does. Like that's the only way he ever gets a point.
Yeah. Yeah. And so shout out to the Olympians that are winning golds and stuff out there. But let's move on to American rugby. Yes, that's right. We just want to at least mention, since we're on this whole rugby kick, that the Seattle Seawolves play in the championship on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox in the championship against New England Free Jacks. I don't really know what that mascot is, but um, oh, sorry, 1 p.m. Pacific time in San Diego at Snapdragon Stadium. So if you have Fox, if you're available at 1 p.m. on a Sunday, pull that up and support the Seattle Sea Wolves as they go for another title. Like Sean, I think mentioned previously, they are almost always in the semifinals, the finals of like everything. So, uh, you want to see some Seattle championship caliber team, turn on the Seattle Sea Wolves on Sunday. Sean, you been watching any Sea Wolves match recently?
I have. They it can't not as quite as down to the wire as U.S. versus Australia today, but there were, as I said, there are three dominant teams this year. Uh, New England is one of them, and then the Seawolves and Houston. And Houston was upset by the Dallas Jackals in their game, so we kind of had sort of a air quote easier run, and then they gave us a run for the money at the end there. But the Seattle's pull it off, and so they're gonna play the one juggernaut in the Eastern Conference, and so there's three teams going at it all year for the best team in all of rugby, and two of them are in the finals, so it should be pretty good.
I went to my friend Zach's wedding, and he has been an athletic trainer for the past 2 seasons in the Major League Rugby. He was with the Dallas Jackals before he was with the Charlotte Anthem this last year. And people at the wedding had to bring up that his team's records combined in the 2 years he's been an athletic trainer for them are 0-32. So hopefully he gets a win here next year. But Charlotte is a very new expansion team, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, shout out to the Seawolves. Check them out on Sunday, 1 p.m. on Fox. Let's talk a little hockey. Yeah, I know Kevin's favorite subject, but let's talk about some NHL draft that we have not gotten to since it happened, and I will show their picks on the screen here. So their first overall pick was a Spokane Chief, not too far up the road on 395. Berkeley Catton was their first pick with the eighth overall pick, and then they did get a couple more WHL guys in Julius. I don't know how to say his last name. Maybe you guys might if you've been to an Everett Silvertips game recently. But Maitinen,
Anthony?
Maitinen,
Probably
Mittinen,
getting in.
Mittinen. Um, yeah. So these are their picks right here: Nathan Villanueve, and then Alexis Bernier, Kim Saarinen, Oliver Josephson, Clark Gaswell, and Yakis Fibger. I don't know how to say some of these names. That's just rough. That's just rough. So Sean, what did you think of the Kraken's draft?
So Berkeley is he's a very good player. The problem is that there's nothing wrong with their draft. It's unfortunately I've talked about it at nauseum. I feel with this team. I don't know if Berkeley Cat is like a dude, and that is all that the Kraken need is dudes, like just a couple, like I'm not saying like Sidney Crosby, like best player in the NHL, but you need like I don't know, Panarin. You know, you need a guy who you know is like, no doubt, season starts, he's gonna be an all-star, he's gonna get some MVP votes. Like you just need to like one of those guys on your team. And the Kraken, for as much depth as they have, it's just like having a bunch of like good pieces, but when you need a great piece, they don't have it. And I Catton, I don't think he's ever going to be an amazing piece. He's going to be a maybe a 2C, maybe a 2C, maybe a 1C in the NHL, which is a very good player. Like they did not reach. He's projected to go around eighth. Like no problem there. They're second, third round picks. Pronouncing them is different, but I've heard like from people that I trust, like nothing crazy. They had a very solid draft, but that's the thing. Everything that Kraken does is solid, but to take the next step, you need wow. And drafting eighth, I don't know if there's going to be a wow. And so I think very good draft. You're going to need to trade some of the depth to get the wow. But again, you're just hitting doubles, and doubles are great. Doubles are great. You just need to find a way to hit that home run. And they did not. I think a lot of the people like, especially we've talked almost in any draft, Kevin can attest, and like football, it's don't just strike out with your first round picks or first couple picks. Get something. And if it's like everyone's like, oh, you know, it's not the sexy player, you could have X, Y, and Z. But I'm like, if this guy is a serviceable, you know, in this case, NHL player for 8 years for you, that is a great pick. Like there's never a situation where that is bad. And so I don't think they did anything bad here. They even did, I think they did pretty well for where they drafted, actually. It's just in the grand scheme of things, I don't know if it moves the needle for me in this coming season that much.
Yeah, I don't think any of these guys are going to make the team this year.
No,
You know, I would
don't
imagine,
expect them to, and that's fine.
yeah, I would imagine Berkeley probably goes back to Spokane for another year, and then eventually makes his way to the uh, Coachella Valley. But you know, on a not great Spokane Chiefs team, he was
Oh yeah,
heads above the highest score. Like it wasn't even close. So I think it is a solid pick, as Sean mentioned. I think it's just too early to tell. I don't know if he's gonna develop into a dude or what he'll be. Because you know the first like five or so picks, those guys are generally expected to at least take a shot at the NHL roster. Now not all of them are gonna make it as well, but
I
they
think this
are the
this year
most
had one
NHL
dude. This had
ready.
one dude. Yeah,
Um,
this draft had one dude.
I mean, so like we'll see what Berkeley develops into because he still could, you know, he's still going to grow into his body a bit because you know he's only 17, so he's got some time to grow and develop as a player. So you know, it's not like the NFL where these guys come in and play right away.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they have time to learn their skills and figure things out at the lower levels before they actually get the call up to the show. So we will see what happens with Berkeley. But overall, like Sean said, I think this is a solid draft, and we'll see where these guys end up in, you know, 3 or 4 years once their
I think
contracts are actually coming due. So
yeah, I think Berkeley has a chance to be better than Maddie even. Like Maddie's a very good player. Not a dude, but there's again no knock on Maddie. Like Maddie's a very very good player. I think Berkeley could even be better than him. So like when I say like not a dude, I mean like not a top 15 guy in the league. And there's no shame in not being a top 15 guy in the league. There's only 15 of them for that reason. So just if I was just saying in context, like if the Kraken want to take that step, they probably need to find one of those 15 guys. But he's yeah, if he cracks top line center in the NHL, I wouldn't be shocked at all. I would not be shocked at all.
And then the Kraken made some moves in free agency. They re-signed Ellie Tolvanen to a 2-year, $3.475 million average annual value contract. They signed defenseman Josh Mahura from the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers to a one-way contract. They also signed Chandler Stevenson from the Las Vegas Golden Knights. This is a 7-year, $6.25 million contract. And they signed Brandon Montour, a defenseman from the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, 7-year, $7.14 million average annual value. Sean, what do you think of their moves?
I I loved their draft. That's what I'll say. Uh, Chandler Stevenson. I'll say this. this is not my opinion. It was viewed as maybe the worst move in free agency in all of NHL free agency. I wouldn't say I'm that down on it, but it's just I don't think. Well, let's put it this way: that is in context of the amount of money. I don't think the Kraken are not strapped for cash, so it won't hurt. But the problem is, eventually they will probably be strapped for cash, and it is just a long time to pay that type of player over $6 million. And for Kevin, for context, $6 million in the NHL is a lot. Like the top guys get 11, get 12. Like it's not NFL terms. So
Right.
it's like paying a guy. What does Mahomes make? $50 million. It's like paying Jamal Adams 25. It's one of those. Like you're like, oh gosh. So I just the player is I don't want to say less than fine, but it's the money. Tolvin, fantastic. Not a lot of money. Came over, played great. Fine little player. Josh, again, 1 year, one way, less than $1 million. It's net either way. It doesn't. If he's just awful, it's 1 year, less than $1 million. None of those thank you. It's only upside for those types of deals. Solid, fine depth. Brandon, less bad, but I think this is more of a way of like, I don't want to say getting the cap floor or locking the cap floor in for sure, but like I didn't think they're that strapped for the floor to be giving these guys kind of a couple more million a year than I thought they were worth. And that's kind of, I mean, they're giving a 30-year-old, 7 years. I'm just kind of like, man, that's just a long, it's a long way. It's a long time it's 37. But again, I'm a Sharks fan. It's too long to be paying these players, these tough, gritty players. It's just that the last 3 or 4 years, they really hurt. They really hurt on those big contracts. Again, they weren't paying Sharks level contracts, but still, it's just I feel like the good that I talked about in the draft was kind of undone with the actual NHL team. But these deals won't hurt for a couple of years at least. So.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Stevenson deal. I look back at his numbers and they're not bad. But I don't think he is. I was never really wowed by him in Vegas, and he is coming off of 51-point season, 16 goals, 35 assists, 75 games. Like
but he's in
that's
a
not
great situation in Vegas. Like his situation is going to be worse now. He's got to do more, and he's going to get sick. I mean, I just like
yeah.
I
mean,
progression coming.
we'll see where he slots in. I don't think he can't be this guy, but I didn't like the long-term commitment like you mentioned. Like if it were like 3 years, like okay,
even 4, you could talk
yeah,
to it for sure.
like
but
that's fine. Because he just never was a guy who you're like, oh, that guy pops off the screen when he gets on the ice. Like it just never was. That's not Chandler Stevenson. But if he can be solid and produce and have 50, 60, 70 points, like you're gonna find a spot on the second or third line. That's not a big deal. I did like the Brandon Montour signing. I like shoring up the defense a bit more. I think that they need to play a bit more offensive on their defense because really all they have is Vince Dunn. They don't have any other offensive defensemen. So, Alexiak and Borgen, those guys aren't your offensive defensemen. So he'll slot right in probably to the power play, if not the second power play unit. So I think that is a big signing because he had his like big year 2 years ago, and then he comes back and helps them win a Stanley Cup. So I think he is a pretty big signing. 7 years for a 30-year-old at his value. Like, I mean, we'll see.
They're both 30.
Yeah, they're both 30. So we'll see how the deal ages. But that's what every athlete wants, that long-term deal.
I get it.
Yeah.
For the player,
So
absolutely.
it's like, do you let him walk for his amount of contract that he wants as opposed to, paying him what he wants now and having him on your team and possibly getting that production and maybe more if he figures it out or they gets in a good situation. Like
my question is like with these long deals and this amount of money, you've got a Toronto guy who's coming up for free agency. I can't remember his name, but you have Leon Draisaitl on the last. Like when I talk about dudes, there are two dudes coming in free agency next year, and then you just dumped all this money for 7 years, and you've got like. Again, these are depth pieces. You need dudes, and some dudes are coming available with money, and you spend all your money on depth pieces. I'm like, and you just drafted all the depth pieces. I'm like, you need the guys like and you could pay for them, but you just locked up all of your money, or not all of it, obviously, but like you locked up a good chunk of the money you could just be giving to Leon Draisaitl next year. Like you could give him, I don't know, like you don't even have to combine them. Like they just gave these two guys $13 million. You can give Leon Draisaitl 12 a year next year. Would you rather have both of these guys or Leon Draisaitl?
That's a tough question.
I take Leon in a heartbeat.
I think Leon is an exceptional player. I think he is a defensive liability. Now that's not what he's paid to do, absolutely.
You don't need that's
but
you need to
and then in the
the
Stanley Cup
right
and then in the Stanley Cup final, he disappeared, which was also a problem.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would probably take Leon, but I just I worry how Leon will age as he becomes into his 30s. I don't think he's going to age as well.
I completely agree, but he's still at 35 is going to be better than both of these 35-year-olds. Like that, but
Probably.
that's
Yeah.
like you could have just had a dude, and you don't even have to probably give him 12. You could probably give him 10. They'll probably take 10 for 7. And like
he's going to take max deal, whatever that is in the NHL term. He's
well,
taking
actually,
a max
that's true.
deal.
But like the cap's going to go up because of the money coming in because they've stopped with their whole like COVID like payback and escrow. They've paid it all back, so the it'll go up. So it'll be the equivalent of what we view right now as 10, because it'll the contracts will go up because there'll be more money.
And I don't see Edmonton letting him walk. I don't see it happening.
I mean, the rumors they're like trading him already, even if they were doing well, because Matthew, Edmonton couldn't pay Wayne Gretzky and moved him. If any city can't keep a superstar, it's Edmonton Oilers.
Okay, fair, but they have Connor McDavid, and that is the priority over Leon Draisaitl.
And they paid him, and they're just like, "You're not going anywhere." And then they're like, "Leon's not going to stay now." Like, they already paid their Wayne Gretzky because they learned from the Wayne Gretzky. They're not going to keep the Messier. Like, I'm just, like they're going to have to get rid of one of them. Which, by the way, Edmonton, how have you guys?
And Messier went to New York and won a title himself. So we'll see what happens.
I was going to say, how do you like have both of those two all together at the same time?
And then we should mention that the coaching staff has been rounded out. Bob Woods is an assistant coach, and the first female assistant coach in Jessica Campbell was hired, who also coached with Dan Bylsma in Coachella Valley. So we'll see how this whole new coaching change, as well as some of the player change, comes together in October. And let us know what you think. Tweet at us. I'm at _Matt. Sean is at NastyBlade22, and Kevin is at SEA2Believe. That is C2Believe on X or Twitter. Subscribe to our videos, comment, tell us what you think about the topics we talk about below. Let's talk a little Seahawks, just a little, because there's not a whole lot to talk about because it's training camp. They're just throwing out videos of great catches that are against the defenders that are on your team. But there was a small bit of news that the Seahawks signed safety Julian Love to a 3-year extension that's worth up to $36 million. He's 26 and was entering the final year of his 2-year, $12 million deal he signed last year with Seattle. Kevin, you've got the mute on, but you've been silent. But now I'm throwing it to you. What do you think of this extension for Julian Love?
Yeah. I mean, we do need safeties, but I don't know if Julian Love's fully worth it. Like, he's a solid safety, but like he's not like Earl Thomas type safety that I want to really give a 3-year deal to. I think they should probably try to give him like 1 more year to kind of see how he fits, especially going into a new defensive scheme. That's way completely different than Pete Carroll's. But maybe, I don't know, maybe Mike Macdonald likes what he sees on film and thinks that he's going to fit okay in his system and maybe possibly even do better. So, but I just, when you're changing everything coaching wise and scheme wise, like, I don't really like throwing big contracts at players like that. Even though I know it's only 3 years, but still, like, $36 million. Yeah, so we'll see.
Sean, what do you think?
I mean, it's a max of $36 million. Again, they never make all their money. So it hasn't come out how it actually is fully structured, but like they always just tell you like what they'll meet if they meet other incentives or anything like that. So I expect it to be more in the ballpark of like 10 a year, which I mean 10 a year, as like to Kevin's point, like they don't have any cap space right now. So they're doing it probably to relieve some issues for in the future, because We talked about it. I mean, there's, gotta love Pete Carroll, but he did not do this team any favors when he left. We have no money and no picks. So, how that's possible, I don't know. But, like, I'm fine with moving him on to get rid of some money because I feel like in the next couple of years we'll be cutting some more fat from this team, and it'll get a little bit easier because I like some of the moves they made in the last 3 years. So with the draft, and give Pete credit some there. The last two drafts have been nice. Before this, so yeah, Julian Love's okay player. He's a safety. I don't know if I would pay a safety $10 million, but that's fine. It's not going to sink yet.
Yeah, I think it's a decent deal. I thought Julian earned an extension. I don't know how much of an extension he earned. I'm sure that's just up to agents and teams to decide, but I think he has earned himself a spot on this team. Now, I do kind of agree with Kevin. Like, it must have been a Mike Macdonald. I don't know. I don't want to say push, but like, if I come in as a head coach and this guy doesn't fit my scheme, I'm not gonna sign him to anything longer than the year that he has. So I think that maybe Mike Macdonald sees some potential in him as a safety for the future. He's only 26.
Yeah.
So he could be here for that full time if he proves himself. So I think he has, and especially with the defense, like there's not a lot of veteran on that defense. So you want to have some veteran presence there as well. So I mean, Jaron Reed is, he's there. He's what, 34, 33. He's probably your veteran down there in the D line. Linebacker wise,
You just have
They have no linebacker.
cornerbacks. Your
It-
cornerbacks have all been drafted within like the last couple of years, so they're all like
it's a-
23, 24.
It's a combo of things. Like he's making 8 against the cap this year. So like in context, like I assume it's for pushing money. The Seahawks have the 5th lowest amount of money available. Like they're down with like, yeah, they have $8 million left for like moves, rosters, all this other stuff, like cutting, all these other things. It's not a lot of money. So what they're doing, I assume what this is to push out some of that $8 million into future years and spread it out. And you're right, Matthew. They probably talked to, like Macdonald said, like, hey, who can we extend a little bit? That's not going to obviously kill us. That you like, that we can work with. And he probably was like Julian Love. Like, let's extend him, not break the bank, but like we could push some of his money into the future and free up so we can actually make some moves going into the season. Not like, again, like not free agents, but like you have to sign things. Like injuries have to happen. You got to fill out a full roster. So it's like, it's not, it's still malleable. You've got to like, $8 million is not as much as people think left to start before the start of the season. They still have like a month before the season starts. So I think that's part of it. It's a combo of like, who do you like and who can we extend to get like some help right now.
All right, and the first preseason game for the Seahawks is August 10th at the Los Angeles Chargers, and then football starts Thursday, technically,
Did
with the Hall of Fame
hear
game.
what
So
Mike said today? He
What'd he say?
did not say you can only win the game in the fourth quarter.
what do you say?
He's like, you can win the game in the first. Essentially, he was like, you could kill him. Like, and it's kind of refreshing. I get that's also not what Pete's saying, but like, I do like the idea of like, let's kill him early. Just kill him. Like,
I love how he fired shots that saying that this offense is not going to run the ball 70 times inside zone.
He has taken 2 subtle shots at the previous regime recently. I don't know if they're like fully intentional, but it's just like that's not how this works. Is basically what it is, and I'm glad it's more of like, and we've talked about it before. I'm like, Pete, I get it. You can only win the fourth, but when the game hits 0, but you could basically end it early if you really want. You can be up by 30 at halftime if you really want. Like you just kill it, score points. Like just score points in the first quarter matter the same. They count 7 points in the first quarter counts the same 7 points as the fourth quarter. So score points in any quarter, please. So I'm very like to Kevin's point. We're not. He's like we're not running power 40 times. He's like we're not doing that anymore. So
We'll take some Seahawk fan adjustment, I think. I don't know. First preseason game will be weird.
I mean, we're not even expected to do a lot. So just get aggressive and get crazy and see what happens. Like honestly, like just
YOLO.
F stuff up, like Step Brother style. Like we're here to F stuff up. Because that's it. We're in the rebuilding phase. The 49ers and the Rams, they got all this hype. The Cardinals drafted, in our division, Marvin Harrison Jr. Just just F stuff up. That's your goal this year. Is like show some progress, make some picks, because we already said it's kind of the rebuild year. You gotta eat the dead money, and you gotta like get rid of some of the fat from the roster. You didn't have a lot of picks. It's kind of a refresh year, but like show
Yeah.
positive strides, and that's all that we want. And just
Well, especially since defense
gotta
is kind of the question mark this season. So like offensively, the pieces are there, other than the O line, of whether they can keep Geno up. So essentially, you want to score as many points as possible because you don't know if that defense is going to hold, and
Get
we
scored on
know you
defense.
have weapons. And Geno, when he's held up, is actually is pretty dang good. Like when he actually has a pocket and has time. Like, so just essentially let that dude throw. Like, and then just, let your defense assemble as a whole. Like, let the young kids play. Let them make their growing pains and mistakes.
When they back up to cover the 3 wide receivers, you give K9 space to run the ball and give him 5 yards to make people miss.
Or you pass to Kenny McIntosh in the flat.
Well, that guy too, if he has all of his ligaments.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about a sport that is currently happening. We have about 7 minutes till our commercial break here, but let's talk about the Seattle Mariners. Because wait, they're in Boston. Sorry, that didn't apply really, but I still said it. So Mariners, they won today. They are in Boston 10-6. They are 57-52, currently sitting with a 1-game lead in the AL West right now. We'll talk about their trade deadline moves in a minute, but before the break, Kevin, what have you thought of them for these last couple weeks?
Yeah. Essentially kind of like a continuation up until recently, which will yes and no. Just disappointed with not just terrible bats, horrible at bats. Like, you have essentially one of the best, if not, you could probably argue the best starting rotation. And your bullpen's solid. You went and gotten Peace, which we'll get into that in a moment. And you were like, it was getting frustrating there for a bit because like you're only getting like 1 to 2 like runs a game, essentially, sometimes even 0. You lost a series. Did they get swept by the Angels, or did they lose the series? The Angels.
They got swept.
They lost.
They got swept. Yeah.
They lost. I don't know if they lost. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you can't lose. You can't get swept by a hot crap team in the Angels. Like, but after the trade deadline, which we'll kind of get to in a moment, there's been a little bit of turnaround other than yesterday, which essentially it was just Logan Gilbert getting blasted, even though we probably would have got out of it if the ump actually calls a strike on a low pitch that should have been called a strike, and that inning goes out with no runs instead of 6 runs. But unfortunately, bad umps. I mean, it was pretty borderline, but it was still a strike. But yeah, Logan Gilbert got just shelled yesterday. But what we saw against the White Sox over the weekend was very good. Essentially, a lot of things turning around due to acquisitions, and then also just Victor Robles being what people thought he could be, essentially. Because I mean, he's a former top prospect for the Nationals, and National fans are probably very pissed off at the moment. To where he's kind of playing up to what they thought he could be in Washington. And he's kind of going ham at the moment, and I hope he keeps it up. So he's been a crucial part of this team's a little bit of an aggressive turnaround as far as hit wise. And now just gotta continuing to give run support, and then I'll pass it off before we go to additions and stuff like that.
Sean, what do you think? You've got 3 minutes.
It was hard.
For
It
now.
was hard to watch.
Yeah.
Recently, since our last podcast, they swept the White Sox, but who cares? Like, you should sweep the White Sox. I mean, I very rarely say that you should sweep somebody, but they're just so bad. Yeah, it was just the Angels, how they looked against the Astros, and the Angels again. It was rough. I'm hoping the vibes, change with these moves coming in and all that other stuff, but it was just so hard to watch. I didn't watch most of it. I was, out of town for work, and so I was glad I didn't get to watch most of it. Because it was a bloodbath. I'm glad also I wasn't online because again, out of work, different time zone, so I wasn't online for that. So yeah, it was down bad, but I'm hoping they kind of got out of it, maybe hit their way out of it recently. So they, since the White Sox, they haven't scored less than 6 runs in a game, 10, 6, 6, 7, 10. Maybe they're onto something. I don't know. It was nice to see a lineup today, and I was like, wow, man, no one's hitting sub 600 OPS. Jorge Polanco is like on fire
Oh,
right now.
yeah, that too.
So he's going nuts. So that's been kind of nice. Yeah, I mean, again, we talked about it. I mean, the Mariners are in first place. It's like, you know, uh, what is it? The Stanley Kubiak movie, the where they prop their eyes open, make them watch the thing. It's hard to watch sometimes, but Clockwork Orange. There you go. But
Yeah.
they're in first place. I can't, I can't be super mad with a first place team. I mean, I get why people are nervous, but at the end of the day, you're in it, you're going for it. I wish they'd hit a little bit better, but they're starting to. And yeah, trust the pitching will pick it up today, tomorrow against Boston in the finale. So just please keep hitting. That's all you need. That's all you need to do, and this team will go to the playoffs. Just hit a little bit more, and you'll go. That's it.
All right, well, I'll give my super hot takes right after this commercial break. Welcome back to Washington East to West Sports. Thank you to our sponsors, all of our advertisers, all of the people who subscribe, mainly to subscribers, but sponsors and, advertisers. If you want to advertise, send me an email. But let's get back to the Seattle Mariners here. So, yeah, I've been watching some games after the All-Star break, and the Los Angeles series was pretty bad. So where they're at right now. But as Sean mentioned, I think an episode ago or 2 episodes ago, like we've never been in this spot, and to we've never been in first place this late, and that is true. I was going back and looking at some of their records the previous years of the All-Star break, and they're not far off from where they are right now. I mean, the one that stands out is 2022, where they were like 12 games over 500, and Houston was just really good, so they weren't in the lead of the division. So, I think going online is a fool's errand when you're trying to figure out how to react to how the Mariners are playing, or any of your sports teams probably in general. But because you go on there and there's just all these overreactions about how this person should do this and this person should get fired and blah blah blah, and it's just like Sean said, we're in first place. Like I, I'm gonna enjoy that. I mean, I get how people can be upset because the team itself, I think, set lofty expectations. And I actually went back and watched some of our old videos, and you guys said that this was the plan, that 2024 we were competing for a World Series. So I get why fans are upset, because we're not the world beaters or one of the top teams in the AL or whatever. And that's fine. If you're upset about that, then be upset about that. But from a more realistic perspective, we're in first place. We're competing for a playoff spot. Now we've been in those spots before, and to have that sort of like pessimism and negativity around it, I totally understand. Totally get that, because that's what we do. That's what we do. So I'm not like down on them or anything like that, because we're in a good spot. Now 2 months from now, if we're out of the playoffs, am I going to be pretty upset? Definitely. But right now, I feel pretty good where we're at. Like, we're in first. We're competing with the Astros. We keep trading the AL West lead. Now we're like 3 games out of the wild card if we're not in the lead of the AL West. So that's not great. But there are plenty of games left. We could still make up ground. And we'll get into the moves they made and the players that are hurt. But this team is not full strength either. So that's also part of the equation, is that this team is not fully what it could be. So once that's the case, and then if they disappoint again, then we can have a different conversation. But all the overreactions right now, especially me, as I've always said, I don't care till August, and it's July 30th right now. So 2 days, I'll start really caring. But at this point, they are in a pretty good spot. Now, let's talk about the trade deadline. Mariners acquired Randy Arozarena from the Tampa Bay Rays. They acquired Justin Turner from the Toronto Blue Jays. They acquired Yimi Garcia from, I didn't write the team down. You guys probably know that. Who is it? Blue Jays. Okay. And then in terms of departures, Viva la France, it's gone. It's in Cincinnati now. It's New France. All right. Same as the old France. Stanek is now a New York Met. So I'm gonna throw it to Sean first this time, since he's got a Mariners hat on. What did you think of the moves?
I don't know if you read it, but JT asked it in our little pod chat.
I did, but that wasn't on the podcast.
Yeah, it's true. That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna repeat it anyways. I B plus, because I say that we got. I'm not a huge. I'll say it this way. Fantasy wise, me and JT have a podcast. We talk about fantasy. I have actually got on the podcast and said I am not a fan of how Randy plays baseball for my fantasy team. But for real baseball, I quite enjoy him. So getting him in on my real team that I root for is quite nice. I don't expect some people might, remember the All-Star game or, the vibes in the Cowboy hat. I don't think he's like some world beater, but he is a good baseball player. He makes his team better. Same with Garcia, a good relief pitcher. And we also have Randy for 2.5 years. We have Garcia for 1.5 years. So it's not just like rentals. both good pieces. Garcia is better than Stanek. We have him for longer. Randy is again good here for a couple years. Turner, I'm not a huge fan of, but undoubtedly, especially if he plays first base, he's an upgrade over what we're playing at first base, undoubtedly. And he's a proven major league player. So, and all that considered, I don't think they're like Justin Turner's major league bats. Of course, we thought that of Jorge Polanco and Mitch Garver this season, but he's a major league bat and he can play first base, probably mostly a DH, but at least technically he can play first base technically, or third base. He's technically a third baseman, but he can play first base, and I think he will be playing first base. And again, Randy's an upgrade. And they looking at what they gave up was the biggest thing. They upgraded 2 bats and a bullpen arm, and basically gave up maybe just Aiden Smith. Of all the pieces they gave up for all the things, I think maybe Aiden Smith has the only shot of being a Major League Baseball player that plays more than 3 years. Class A was fun, but watching him play Major League Baseball, he definitely at the very least needs more seasoning. But I don't know if I see a Major League Baseball player there. So doing all of that, getting those upgrades for multiple years, and giving up one guy I think will eventually be a major leaguer is a really nice haul. Like, to be honest, it's a really nice haul. So I give Jerry and John props for that. Again, if we spend the offseason, we don't have to make these crazy trades, but that's a whole different issue. But at the trade deadline, I give it a B+ because they improved 3 major positions of need, and didn't give up a ton. But I don't give it an A- or A because they probably should have done a little bit more. Like, one more bat should have probably been acquired. But other than that, people were clamoring for, like, Vlad or whatever that it was. And I heard a thing. None of the top 100 players were moved. Not one of the top 100 players were moved on any, like, Baseball America, MLB Pipeline, or Baseball Prospectus. Any of the whatever top 100 you followed, none of them were moved. So there was a lot of moves, but no huge prospect was moved. So therefore, you're not going to get the Vlads or the Pete Alonsos. And my thought is basically like those teams wanted too much that nobody was willing to pay for them. And I give Jerry credit for, look, not overspending on something. Like, I'm not going to give you 3 of my top 10 prospects for Vlad when no one else is going to pay anything close to that. I'm not going to overspend for something. And a lot of people want to make moves, and I wanted to make a move in this offseason. We've talked about it before, trade a young starting pitcher. I was like, trade one of them. You have so many guys. And I was wrong. Jerry was right. Don't trade them. And honestly, if you wanted to trade Woo or Miller now, their value is like 3 times more than it was in the offseason. So, like, I am a proponent of don't overspend. They improved this team, didn't overspend, and kept all their good prospects. It's hard to be sad about that trade deadline in totality, looking at it those 3 ways.
Kevin, thoughts?
Yeah, kind of similar. Essentially we upgraded offense a little bit. Would I have liked another bat? Of course. Would have loved a Luis Robert Jr., of course, and having.
My question is though, Kevin, where do you play Luis Robert?
And see, that's the hard part, and I think that's why they didn't go after it. Because with Victor Robles playing what he is right now, that's the hard piece when Julio comes back.
And Rayleigh's been fine. He just plays against righties sometimes, and so it's just like you're not playing Luke, you're not playing Victor Robles either. If you get Luis Robert, and he's going to cost a ton, so you're going to have to play him.
Yeah.
I agree. But like once you got Randy, it's like, well, you don't get Luis because you can't play him now. Like,
yeah. So that's kind of why I was like, I get why they didn't go there. Vlad is, I don't know. I mean, he's been hot this last week and a half, but I mean, that could always go away too. Like, so
Vlad haters. That's why
I liked Garcia, upping that bullpen, especially when Santos went day to day for a little bit too. So that was kind of scary because Santos
he warmed up today. So he's ready to go.
Oh yeah, I know he's back. Yeah, so like but with that as a question mark too, and then also Stanek just being butthole. you just kind of upgrade it to where you have 3 guys essentially that can like so for example, especially if you get a playoff run, like if you are in the 8th inning and you're going against like their 2, 3, 4, or you can put in um oh my god, I'm totally brain farting on Sexy Boy. What's up?
Munoz.
Munoz in the 8th, and then put one either Garcia or Santos in the 9th and feel comfortable. Like, yeah. I mean, would I love to have Matt Brash here too? Of course, but as we know, he's gone for the season. But
They actually did trade for another bullpen arm as well today. I don't know if you saw that, Matthew.
oh, I didn't.
Oh, they did?
Oh gosh, you're gonna make me say his name now too. He used to be a Mariner, actually. They traded him away. Uh, JP starts with a C. Keep going, Kevin, but I'll look it up as I.
Oh, JT Chargois.
Yeah, he was traded once already, but now he's back. Yes,
Oh.
and he's been very, very good this year. So,
Okay. Yeah, so overall, I like that they upped it. Justin Turner is like it's hard because as a person, I don't really like him a whole lot. But he is, as Sean mentioned, he is proven to be a solid major leaguer. Like, and he gets hot streaks every now and then too. Like, the dude can hit bombs. Like, he's gone on. Like, he's had hot streaks of where he just crushes balls. But, so essentially, you're probably playing him at first, and then some days at third when you need, relief there. But, France gone. I mean, I liked Harry France as a player a lot, but unfortunately, when you're kind of batting poo poo and not doing a whole lot for the team, it's sad to see him go because he's one of the players that you love to watch, love to see him interview. He's just fun. So I wish him best of luck in Cincinnati if he stays there. But overall, as a whole, we've been playing better since Arozarena got here, and then Justin Turner's made his start today. Looks like, and I think he got 1 hit. I thought
he got an RBI single in the first.
Yeah.
I don't. He got a ground out RBI later. And then I kind of was like cooking dinner, so I didn't see like all of his at bats. But yeah,
I think too. The Ty France thing kind of maybe, and this just could be me stretching. I think it might have lit a fire under Jorge Polanco's ass to see like, oh shit, like I probably might have to do, And so Jorge Polanco, and it's possible maybe like Polanco was really injured and now he's feeling better, and now it's starting to click because that dude has been hot as heck. I mean, just crazy. So I hope that continues. Like, please let that. I mean, I don't expect him to hit a home run every freaking day, but like if he's hitting 3 a week, and getting on base still, I'm totally fine with that. Like that's what we've been wanting at second base for forever since Cano left, essentially. Like just solid second baseman play. Like, and we know Jorge Polanco can do this. Like he's done it on other teams before. So it's really nice to see. So I just hope he stays hot and consistent. I hope Mr. Robles stays hot and consistent. We know Arozarena is going to be solid. And then just injury bugs of Julio and Mitch Garver.
JP.
Oh, and JP too. Yeah, JP as well. It's right. Dylan Moore's playing right now. I forgot. Dylan Moore's been okay though. I mean,
he missed a grand slam by about like 2 feet today.
Yeah. So I mean, keep it up, please. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what it brings. So.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go pass fail here. I don't even need a grade. I'll give it a pass. I know Randy Arozarena, so I thought that was a good move. I know Justin Turner. Both those guys were on my fantasy team. I had no Mariners until this trade deadline. Now I have 2 on my fantasy team. My team sucks, so it doesn't matter anyway. But
so doesn't it mean it's bad if your team sucks and the Mariners get your sucky players?
See, the thing is, my hitting has been pretty good. My pitching has been terrible.
Okay. So they didn't trade for your pitchers. Okay.
No,
that's good then.
No. But yeah, Rosarena, Turner, and then I don't know Yimi Garcia, so I'll take your guys' word for it. Ty France, that did hurt. You know, because he is a guy who, you know, it was easy to root for. Like Kevin said, he's a good interview. He's you could tell he's just like a solid good dude, and he seemed to enjoy being here, and he was a part of, you know, some of these good teams these last couple of years. So it does hurt, but I do appreciate that Jerry was able to recognize that it wasn't working out and that it's just not going well, and he made a tough move. I'll give Jerry credit for that. Like it would have been easy to just been like, oh, okay, let's just keep trying France and, you know, not rock the boat or anything, whatever. But he made a move to try and make this team better, and I think that's commendable because, you know, you can sit there and like not trade fan favorites because maybe they sell a few tickets, but he made the move, and I appreciate that. And then, you know, Ryan Stanek to the Mets. I'm not super upset. He has great hair, but other than that, not super upset about that either. So, like I said the last time we were here, I wanted them to do something, and they did something. Was it a big splash? No, absolutely not. But this team, I think, is better, and the results will tell us how this process was, and we'll see where they're at the end of the year.
It was one of the bigger splashes of this free agency. I mean, there wasn't like
There
I don't
wasn't
think
anything crazy big,
and
and
that's what I'm saying. Like it seems like the market for like the big guys was gone, so he made like one of the bigger two-tiered trades that was made during here. Like Flaherty and like a Rosarino were probably the big two, right? I think like, and
I
he made
mean,
one of them. Yeah, like
sure.
I just think it shows that the market for like there wasn't a lot of guys, big name guys that were gonna just move. It was basically like Vlad and maybe Pete Alonso, but I think that was basically done. So it's basically just Vlad. Vlad was the only big guy that was ever gonna move really, and it just seems like Toronto was just never gonna move him for anything reasonable, or he probably would have been moved already. So I think, I mean, I know you want a big move, but I think like he made the biggest move that was probably available to him.
Sure. I get what you guys are saying with the prospects, but if you got prospects, like do something. I get you.
I
You
just
keep
don't
them,
want
and
Vlad. I think he's overrated. Like
no, I'm not saying like I wanted Vlad or Pete, but like like I wanted a bigger splash. I thought a bigger splash was coming,
okay,
and it
but
just
not
never
Vlad or
happened.
Pete. Who is it? That's the problem.
Yeah,
Like there was
like
no one
I
available.
didn't know what I was expecting, but I wanted something bigger.
I mean, I guess you could have, instead of Randy, done Luis Robert. Maybe would have been the bigger splash, I guess. But I mean, that's just like, yeah, Luis Robert, I'd say is better than Randy. But like, yeah, you're just, you know, he's a slightly the Walmart version. That's not fair to Randy. He's better than
That's
Walmart
messed up.
version.
Yeah.
But it's more of like the middle grown. I don't know, like Trader Joe's to like I don't know Yokes in the Eastern Washington. Yokes is a good store, so he's the Yokes version of that. He's not a Whole Foods, but you know,
Who goes
like
to Whole Foods?
I don't know, like
Yeah.
people with money, and that's what it's going to cost to get Luis Robert is money, like lots of prospects. But that's what I'm saying. Like you got a slightly less version for almost nothing. That's what I feel like. Aiden Smith's might be something, but like they got all of these pieces. They're not crazy world beaters, but they didn't give up anything. Like, would this team be better if instead of like like they got two bats, and instead of like two bats, they get one bat, which is Luis Robert, instead of both of these guys and give up more prospects? I don't think so. I don't think they're better now, and I don't think they're better in the future. I think getting these two plus keeping all your prospects was a better option. Now, if there was a ton of like markets available, like I just don't want to like I just didn't want to like gut everything to like there's not an Ohtani, you know what I mean? Like there's not a guy you're like obviously that guy, and then you sign him. It's just like, is Robert fine? Yeah, but Robert has huge issues. He's always hurt, and how good actually is he? And so it's just kind of like Vladimir Guerrero, you're gonna play MVP price, and he's never gonna be an MVP again. Like, so I'm just like, I'm not overpaying for a Vlad. Like,
well, here's how I'll put it. Did they make a big splash comparison to this year? Yeah.
you know,
Did they make a big splash in general? Not really. Not
no,
really.
that's fair, but yeah, it's the market.
Yeah.
Market
I mean,
yeah.
like and it's fine. Like, you didn't want to pay what they were offering, and that's fine. But prospects are great, but I am a proven over prospects. I think we've already gone over this a bunch of times, but I would take the proven over the prospects. And the contract situation, I understand. Like, you'd only have Vlad for a year and a half, or what else, Pete, like a year and a half as well, or something like that. Like, I get that. Yeah,
I'm a proven over prospects too, but that doesn't mean you light all the prospects on fire and trade them for nothing.
I'm not saying light them all on fire, but if you've got this great farm system, use it and get
That's
something
what it
back
sounds like
now,
they wanted you to do for Vlad. That's
Yeah.
what it sounds like they wanted you to do for, because no one bid on Vlad. So I'm like, it tells you that like the price was just too high, that no one was willing to pay it. And so I'm like, good, don't pay this crazy price because you think your feet are to the fire. Like, okay, that's fine. Like, don't, just because you have prospects doesn't mean you pay 50 cents to $1 for them. They're very, Harry Ford is very valuable. He's a young hitting catcher. Don't give up him for less than he's worth. Like, get that, because like in the end, because at the end, like I said with Wu and Miller, like they would have gone so much cheaper in this offseason than if you trade them next offseason. I'm not saying advocating for that, but I'm like, he held on to them because he's like, I'm not getting fair market value for these guys. I'm just going to play them. And he played them. And now he's like, if someone wants them next year, he's like, all right, we start with your top prospects. Show me your top 10 prospects right now. Like, and I'm going to take 2 of them. Like, so like, it's like, and to your point, Matthew, you can't even play all these prospects. There's top 10 prospects are all, you have top 100 guys you're not even going to be able to play, like, because you just don't have positions for them. But again, that doesn't mean you get rid of them for less than they're worth.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I understand.
I'm proven over prospects too. I am proven
the
over
moves, but I thought there might be a bigger splash. That's all.
I just think it was more of this year. There just wasn't a lot high end talent to trade for, and if there was, it was mainly a pitcher. And you're not trading for a
now. If
pitcher.
Toronto's down bad next year and Vlad's like, I'm out of here, then maybe it's a different conversation. You never know.
I haven't looked like who the trade prospects might be next year, but yeah, like this year, it didn't even sound like Pete Alonso was a guy. It was just like basically like Vlad and like Luis Robert, and Luis Robert didn't go either. So I'm just like, yeah, I just didn't feel like there was much of a huge high end market, but there was a lot of very middle market, and it was a lot of moves today. And well, the Mariners made 4, so
yeah, I think they are better than they were prior to the trade deadline. So, now let's get into some prospects, because Kevin went and saw some play for the Everett Aqua Sox. So, Kevin, let us hear about your prospect report from the Tri-City Dust Devils game. Sorry you couldn't make it, Sean.
They all sucked. Yes, Sean getting home at 2 in the morning and
I go to bed at 1. I got home at like 11:30. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, mainly I went Saturday. Let me pull it up here. Sorry, there's so much crap on this phone.
Well, you could just talk about how Montes was.
Yeah, Montes, that's essentially who I went to go see. Was
He's Big Boy, Big Toys.
Mr. Yeah, Big Boys, Big Toys. He was just very, very sexy. You
never even told me. Did they even win? Like, did I?
Yeah, they won 6-0. They shut them out.
Oh gosh.
I'm trying to find the freaking line, because Montas essentially was 0 for 4 with 2 walks. I liked his bat presence. Like, he didn't swing at garbage. Well, actually, no. The one at bat he struck out, he like tried to golf swing one, but there was like no outs, and I think they just greenlight him to just like and they had like 2 on base with no outs, and they're like, just swing, just swing at whatever the hell you want. Which I was telling my friend who came along with me. I was like, they're just gonna greenlight him just to try to clip any piece that they can. Oh yeah, here it is. So the all-star that came out of that thing for that night, which I'm going to go over his numbers here for the last 13 games, which are pretty nuts, was Bill Knight, who plays center field for them. That night he was 3 for 4 with a home run, 5 RBIs and a stolen base, and he had a crazy catch in outfield. Like he covered ground and dove and caught a ball that most general outfielders probably are not getting. Like, I was very impressed by this kid, and when I got home, I was just like, well, some players just have a really hot night, But according to Mariner Miners over the last 13 games, he's got 3 home runs, 10 runs, 14 RBIs, 4 walks, 5 out of 6 stolen base attempts, hitting 286, 352, 612, and 964. So is he going to be a world beater? Probably not. Maybe he's having a hot streak. There are minor leaguers that nobody knows of that have hot streaks, but it is something to just kind of keep an eye out on, that he's kind of heating up and maybe possibly could be something in the future. Let's see. Caleb Cali looks pretty good. He I think had a run in that game. Let me look. Michael Arroyo was 1 for 3 with a run, and 2 walks. Good bat presence. The hips didn't lie at all. You know, they great hips on that man. Yeah, let's see what else in that game. Oh yeah, Jared Sandstrom, who was batting third for him, was 1 for 3 with 2 runs and a walk.
Who pitched? Do you know?
The pitching was Marcelo Perez. He had 4 innings, 0 runs, 3 walks, 2 Ks. But their bullpen had a shutout. Like, well, I mean, they didn't score at all. He was followed up by 2 innings of Alan Satoff with 0 hits, 0 runs, 0 walks, 3 Ks. And he got the win. And then Brian Pope after that with 2 innings, 0 hits, 0 runs, a walk, and 2 Ks. And then the final was Tyler Cleveland, who close for him, 0 hits, 0 runs, 0 walks, 2 Ks. So, like, it was really nice to see that bullpen kind of come out there and just shut him out, essentially. There was only really one struggling inning for Perez, where he walked 2 guys and then he had a hit, so they had the bases loaded, but he got out of it, which I think was the 2nd or the 3rd inning. But which I think one of them was the crazy diving catch by Bill Knight, just going, which I was like, oh dang. And even like Montas was like clapping for him in right field. I was staring at Montas's sexy Muskin presence. I could smell it from being on the first baseline, you know. All that fun. But it was, yeah, no, it was fun to watch, to cheer him on. There was a guy wearing a Mariners hat who is like essentially doing like razzling the Aqua Sox, which I was like, you're here to root for them. Like, why are you rooting for Angels prospects? I was like, whatever. But yeah, as a whole, it was a fun game to watch. And then they won the next day, I believe, 2-0, I want to say. And then as far as the other prospect watch, Mr. Ty Cummings having 6 shutout innings today with 7 Ks, I believe. So that was really nice to see. And other than that, yeah, I'll pass off to Sean for any other updates for prospects.
Sean, some prospect watch.
Colt Emerson's still proves to be why he's in the top 100. Last year, 140 WRC plus in low A. I think it's about time he gets called up here. And Johnny Formello, please get healthy. You're kind of my guy. Kevin mentioned Michael Arroyo. Him and Laz got called at the same time, and Michael Arroyo has by far been better in IA. So like 135 WRC plus in IA, like he got better in the booth. Like his hitting has gotten better as he went up the level. So I don't. They're both 19, so they're both super young for high A, but it has not slowed Michael Arroyo down. Are we maybe finding out that Michael Arroyo maybe is like the dude in this whole thing? But yeah, it's kind of funny because the overall rankings actually have him higher than Laz overall in their in Fangraphs, so that's kind of funny. But yeah, maybe they found something there because he's looking nice. Logan Evans just continues to just be gross. almost a sub 2 ERA now. He's just killing it at AA. I'm wondering if they moved him back to starter, but man, Hancock has been like fine, but man, I can't help but wonder like I say fine. Hancock has been amazing at AAA, which is very hard to do. He has a 2 ERA in AAA, which like PCL is like a hitter's ballpark, so that's actually been amazing. But I, like I don't know, man. Logan Evans, everyone just keeps talking about it every time he starts. And he's quickly climbing up boards. I don't know if like, man, I don't know if they gotta trade somebody, right? I thought that last year though, but they gotta trade somebody, right? I don't know. I'm very curious to see what if they play him or what they get for him. So
A
because
man starting rotation.
like with how it works now, could you have like a long arm like him in the pen for like the long arm guy, and if Wu or Miller needs some days off or something like that, you just throw him in there and start him. That's like my dream. Like you just have like basically 6 starters up, and then like one guy like fills in as needed. Like so basically the bottom three all kind of like share the same workload. That'd be like just peak. And then you let Logan, Lewis, and Kirby just be the horses at the front. Oh, that'd be like a dream. But yeah, it's a good problem to have. I heard Jeff Passan say that the Mariners. This is before the trade deadline, so a lot of prospects move back and forth. Again, not a lot of huge ones, but depth did get filled out. That he expects the Mariners to probably be the #1 minors in baseball again, which is just absolutely insane. After they called everybody up, and then they're going to just reload and do it again, which is not something to be taken for granted. People like it is crazy impressive that they did that again. I will also say, Matthew, to your point about Ty France, I think it hurts because Ty France was like that part of the trade was like the move to like the current Mariners like were good because like they were still like in the selling mode, like the trade off stuff, get things, and that trade was like they made 2 trades technically at the same time, so Matt Brash wasn't part of it. They made 2 trades with the same team on the same day. Don't know why you couldn't just include the same players in one trade, but I don't know. Jerry did it this way. They got Brash, Munoz, and Ty France all on one trade. I'm gonna call it one trade with the Padres, and that kind of like jump started their whole like this whole like rebuild renaissance, and then Julio coming up and JP turning into JP. So I think it hurts more because like Ty France was like the symbol of like its start of the go time, and then unfortunately when it became go time, he just couldn't go anymore, and that's what I think hurts the most. Like thought he had more years left in him, but I don't know. I don't know. Hope he does well in a more hitters friendly ballpark, but Ty France got us through the dark ages and to the light, so because it got pretty bad there. But thank you, Ty.
Viva la France. All right. Well, if you have any Mariners takes, let us know what you think of the Seattle Mariners, the Seattle Seahawks coming up. Go ahead and tweet us. I'm at Matt. Sean is at NastyBilly22. Kevin is at C2Believe. That's SEA2Believe on X or Twitter. Subscribe to us. Tell us what you think about the topics we talked about in the comments below. We'll be off for probably a week, and then we'll probably come back with some Seahawks, whatever they do in a preseason game, whatever happens in those. And then we'll talk some Mariners. We'll see where they're at. And the Olympics will be wrapped up, so we'll probably have some hot Olympic takes. So with that, we will see you next time on Washington, East to West Sports. Bring back our Sonics.